Hello my friends, today I'm going to share with you the easiest way to propagate your stringer hearts, and if you have a stringer space, these techniques apply to that plant as well. So if you have been unsuccessful in the past, today you're going to learn how to easily propagate new stringer hearts or stringer space so that you can give away to friends or family or just keep them yourselves. So first of all, you want to set up your propagation in the area where it's receiving the most sunlight as possible. So stringer hearts and stringer space, they love sunlight. Even direct sunlight is absolutely perfectly fine. Now, the first technique is soil propagation. So you want to get your soil mixture ready, and my soil mixture consists of 50% potting mix, 50% cacti soil, and a few pieces of horticultural charcoal. You want an actual pot that has a lot of drainage holes in it, so that if you end up overwatering your plant, the excess water can actually drain away. I'm just going to use today a plain nursery pot with lots of drainage holes in it. And what I'm going to do is that before I get cuttings, stop. You don't need to get cuttings yet. What you want to do is grab your stringer hearts and then just place it on top of the new pot, and you want to put it on the side or down below. Either way, just grab the strings, put on top, but you want to layer the strings on top of the new propagation. You want to lay it horizontally because this is the area, and you also want to make sure the leaves are upwards as well. You don't want the leaves facing down because it's more likely the leaves are going to rot. You want to lay the strings so the leaves are facing upwards and the strings are actually the closest to the soil, because where the actual leaves touches the string or attaches to the string, this is where the nodes are located. These are areas where the new roots are going to grow out of it. So the more nodes that you have, the more chances for new roots to grow out of it and more chances for new plants to grow out of it. Then what you want to do is grab some soil and lightly cover the stringer hearts. Just lightly covering it, making sure that the actual leaves are not covered by the soil. And if you find it's quite hard, what I tend to do is that I lightly cover the stringer hearts with soil, and then I water over the leaves so that the excess soil is actually washed down from the leaves. So you don't want to cut the strings yet, because what's happening is that the mother plant is still, those strings are still attached to the mother plants, so the mother plant is still providing those strings nutrients and water, so it's less likely for those strings to actually rot away. What's going to happen is that new roots are going to grow into the soil, and then once in a few months time, what's happening is the new roots are going to go into a new pot, and you basically just cut away those strings and you just have a new plant ready to go. The other technique is to do it by water propagation, and by water propagation, still stop. Don't do any cuttings yet. Don't cut away any of those strings from the mother plant, because you still want the mother plant to provide the water and the nutrients to those strings. You just get a glass of water or a container or a vase, pretty much anything that you have lying around there that you can hold water in it. I'm just going to use a glass, and don't worry, I don't drink out of this, and I set these glasses aside purposely for water propagation. If you have a container that actually prevents light from coming through, it's actually going to grow the roots faster, because it's kind of simulating the actual stems in soil, so you have that darkness, so it's going to be faster that way. So what I want to do, I want to fill enough water so that the actual strings are sitting in the water. You want to make sure that the leaves have been removed, so get the bottom of the strings, remove about 10 centimeters worth of string that has no leaves attached to it, which is roughly around about 4 inches of the string. And what you want to do is remove those leaves so that those leaves are not sitting in water so it doesn't become mushy. And what you want to do then is to pop those strings that have no leaves in the water. So just make sure that the leaves are not sitting in the water. And then what you want to do, and the water I use is just plain tap water. Nothing fancy, plain tap water is absolutely fine. And what you want to do is replace that water once a week. And the reason for that, if stagnant water is sitting there for too long, algae can actually build up in that water. And the other part is, if stagnant water is in there for too long, if you're in an area that is quite warm, you don't want mosquitoes laying larvae in the water. So replace the water on a regular basis, prevent those things from happening. And if in time that you do replace the water, just clean the container as well so that the algae is removed as well. Now, if you happen to forget, look, it's like once a week is the recommendation, but if you happen to forget and you leave it for 2 weeks or 3 weeks, if you do it once in a while, it's still absolutely fine. So you're going to notice that over the weeks, new roots are starting to grow. Once that's happened, once the roots get to about 5 centimeters, which is approximately 2 inches, you can then cut those strings away from the mother plant and then transfer it into the soil, making sure that the soil stays moist for about 2 weeks before you let the soil completely dry before rewatering it. The reason for that is if you're doing water propagation, the roots that have grown are actually water roots. They're not soil roots. So those roots are actually used to growing in water and getting water whenever it likes. So when you transfer in soil, you want to kind of ease those cuttings into the soil. Or the other technique is before you actually cut those cuttings from the mother plant, instead of transferring then into soil, when the roots have grown, just transfer it directly into the soil and don't cut away from the mother plant. Let those roots establish in the soil, then cut those cuttings away. Because what you want to do is basically use the mother plant to provide the water and the nutrients to the new plants to grow those roots before the actual cuttings or the strings are cut from the mother plant. And that's the most successful way because you're actually still having those strings attached to the mother plant. So that's how I actually become very successful in propagating stringer hearts or stringer spades. This is the final result of the 2-month-old soil propagation. So by using this technique, the actual new plant looks full and lush and looks like a new established plant. It doesn't look like a new baby propagated plant. And the only disadvantage about this technique is that you need the mother plant to have lots of strings in it in the first place. This is the result of the 3-month-old water propagation. So water propagation does tend to take a little bit longer compared to direct soil propagation, and that's because it needs time for the actual roots to acclimate between the water and the soil. But once again, the new plant looks super full and super lush. And once again, as long as you have the mother plant that has lots of strings on it, your new plant is going to look very well established. And if you do find that you're finding that your mother plant doesn't have that many strings in the first place, there is a video that I have if you want to watch that one there, and I'll show you how to actually propagate it just by the leaves. If you have any questions of your own, leave it down in the comment section down below. And if you did find this content helpful, I really appreciate it if you subscribe to the channel. I'll see you in the next video.